That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
All right, guys, that was an insane ride. I mean, one of the most brutal Sundays that we have had in a very, very long time. But anyway, I owe y'all a massive, massive thank you. As in, this morning, we passed 22,000 subscribers. That was done with all the support that y'all have showed on the videos, on the live streams. Y'all know we upload so many videos every single day, and we go live every day as well. And y'all smash that like button into oblivion. I mean, most of the time we'll have a live stream of about 300 to 400 viewers, and we'll have like 500 likes on the live stream. I mean, y'all are absolutely ridiculous. Thank y'all all so much for deciding to support the show so far in 2020. I never expected to see this much growth. Thank you so much, guys. Y'all truly support the channel more than any other fantasy football channel on YouTube. But anyway, let's get into 10 lessons that we learned from week 13 going into our fantasy football playoffs. And yes, I know this list is going to be more than 10 lessons, but there's a lot to talk about here. So let's just get into it. And let's start it off with our first lesson, something that I talked about so many times this week, and I hope y'all listened. Deandre Hopkins is matchup proof. Deandre Hopkins is a high-end wide receiver one. Yes, he was going up against Jalen Ramsey this week, but yes, we understood that the way that defenses play in 2020 is not running man coverage every single play. We know that the New England Patriots actually lead the NFL in man coverage, and that rate is under 50% per dropback. Deandre Hopkins was going to be a smash all along, seeing over double-digit targets, seeing 8 receptions, 52 yards, and a touchdown. Clearly, yes, Hopkins has had his struggles this past month, but this was never a wide receiver that you should have been considering benching, and I'm glad the call came through this week because the process was fully there. Okay, so now our next lesson learned is Dallas Goedert is still playable with Zach Ertz. This is something that I also said this past week. I mean, Zach Ertz is complete dust. If you look at the efficiency that Zach Ertz saw earlier on this season, when he was really the only man left standing in Philadelphia, he was unable to get anything going. So we understand that Dallas Goedert is the best playmaker on the Philadelphia Eagles currently, and this is a team that is really lacking playmakers. So Dallas Goedert is going to be the only Philadelphia Eagle that I think that we can play. And this leads us right into our next lesson. RIP Myles Sanders. I mean, Myles Sanders, y'all know I was telling so many people to put him in their lineups this past week. I'll say if y'all came out to the live streams on Sunday morning and Saturday night, y'all know I was a little bit more hesitant in Myles Sanders with Jordan Howard getting activated off the practice squad. But still here, Myles Sanders against one of the worst run defenses in the entire NFL, only managing 31 yards on 10 rush attempts. I mean, you cannot start Myles Sanders anytime soon, and I have so many rosters. I am so invested into Myles Sanders that it really looks like it could be drowning my fantasy football season in certain leagues. And now our next lesson learned, something that I have been talking about for a month now, and I've gotten so much hate behind it. Cam Akers is the true number one in Los Angeles. Cam Akers, 21 carries, 94 total yards with a reception. Now here, I know that this was not necessarily a game that was putting him over the edge, but this marks the first time that we can fully say that Cam Akers is a starting running back for us going forward. He was always more talented than Darrell Henderson. Anybody who played Dynasty Fantasy Football and evaluated Cam Akers coming out of Florida State knew that the entire time. So really happy that we are seeing it come into fruition now at the NFL level. And now our next lesson learned is Anthony Lynn is a complete bum. I mean, going out there and not being able to put up one touchdown against the New England Patriots. I mean, Justin Herbert ended up with over 50 pass attempts, only 26 completions, 209 passing yards, and 2 interceptions. I mean, we were naturally assuming that this offense for the Los Angeles Chargers was going to be near the top of the NFL every single week going forward. Now that they got Austin Eckler back, they had Keenan Allen and Mike Williams fully good to go. And I will say, honestly, I don't think we take too much away from this game because, like I told y'all this past week, yes, we had Keenan Allen falling from our wide receiver 2 to a low-end wide receiver 1, and y'all made fun of me. Y'all better be going down there and apologizing right now for doing so because I think that we are still going to be playing both Austin Eckler and Keenan Allen every single week, but our expectations, I think, have to be a little bit lower, knowing that this is in the range of outcomes for the Los Angeles Chargers. Okay, so now our next lesson learned is Carson Wentz is completely dead in Philadelphia. I don't know how many times we had to see Carson Wentz go out there and completely drag this Philadelphia Eagles offense through the ground. I mean, some of the worst quarterback play that we have seen in the past 5 seasons from Carson Wentz in 2020. You look at the numbers, and Joe Flacco has been a better quarterback so far in 2020, but now it is Jalen Hurts time. Jalen Hurts coming in and only attempting 12 passes and completing 5 of them, but going for over 100 passing yards. And what we care about is the rushing equity. Guys, this is why I have Jalen Hurts on so many Dynasty Superflex rosters, because even if he comes in and is a below average quarterback at the NFL level, we know due to that rushing equity that he should have in this offense, very similar to a Taysom Hill, where even if he doesn't have a ton of passing volume every single week, we know that if he's going out there rushing for 60 yards and possibly a touchdown every game, he's someone that's going to be making your starting lineup. So now I think as we look at Philadelphia, really the only players that we can ever consider starting are going to be a Dallas Goedert and actually a Jalen Hurts because of that rushing ability. Okay, so now our next lesson learned is the only players you can start in Green Bay besides Aaron Rodgers are going to be Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams. I don't know how many times I had to talk about Robert Tonyan and Allen Lazard this past week. And while, yes, Robert Tonyan did have a decent game based on him getting the touchdown, here I think that we are just going to understand that Tonyan and Allen Lazard are going to alternate weeks with going out there and getting that 3rd touchdown for this Green Bay Packers offense. But all of the production is really going to be funneling through Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams. So that's going to be a scenario where both Tonyan and Allen Lazard are a little bit too volatile for my liking. So while you got away with the Robert Tonyan play in week 13, I don't think you can going forward. I think the only players that you can stick in your starting lineup in Green Bay are going to be Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams. Okay, so now our next lesson learned is going to be Jonathan Taylor, just like we predicted, is full on breaking out for the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, over 100 rushing yards here, really doing this off of efficiency, not necessarily volume, but he did just like we said, out-touch Nyheim Hines drastically in a matchup where it called for it. 13 rush attempts, 3 receptions, and a touchdown. Jonathan Taylor has that career resume coming out of Wisconsin, has that athletic profile that we need to take notice of the breakdown in touches in Indianapolis, with the situation being fantastic, running behind a very good offensive line, and we have to plan on jamming in Jonathan Taylor into our starting lineups from here on out. Okay, so now our next lesson learned is Brandin Cooks is not a wide receiver 1 now that Will Fuller is out of this offense. We are actually going to be expecting Brandin Cooks to maintain a similar role to what we already had, something that I was saying in the must-start wide receiver video, where we know that Brandin Cooks has a high floor just because if this offense wants to have any chance to move the ball down the field, they are going to have to do it through Brandin Cooks. But he does not necessarily have that ceiling to step up into a Will Fuller or a Deandre Hopkins role, because he is that field-stretching wide receiver, and he's really going to be making space underneath for, it looks like, a player like Keke Coutee, someone we wanted on our benches this past week to really be able to have space underneath to operate, to be able to rack up those yards after the catch. So here, I think that with Brandin Cooks, he's still someone you need in your starting lineup every single week. You're just not going to be expecting wide receiver 1 production. And yeah, our next lesson learned is it looks like Keke Coutee is going to be a thing in Houston, almost seeing 10 targets in this game, actually out-targeting Brandin Cooks, having 8 receptions and almost 150 total yards. And now, if y'all remember, if you've been playing fantasy football for serious few years now, you remember Keke Coutee back in 2018 when there was a multiple stretch of weeks where we saw Keke Coutee get a decent amount of volume in terms of the targets that he was accruing in the Houston Texans offense. Now, I think that based on that previous resume, based on what we saw in week 13, if you want to play him in week 14 at your flex, honestly, it's not that bad of an idea. Okay, so now our next lesson learned, something that I've been talking about for the past month now, Justin Jefferson is the wide receiver 1 in Minnesota. Guys, what do y'all need to see? Justin Jefferson is getting all of the volume there. Now, I know, yes, Adam Thielen is the preference once they get down to the red zone. But what we have learned so far, if you play fantasy football seriously over a large span of leagues, over a large span of years, what is actually sticky week to week is going to be volume. It's going to be those air yards accrued in the offense, not necessarily red zone usage. That's a lot more volatile when you rely on the touchdown volume. So here with Justin Jefferson, he looks like a lock as a high-end wide receiver 2. At the very least, I'm going to be calling him a low-end wide receiver 1. Okay, so now our next lesson learned is it looks like Myles Gaskin is going to be a legit bell cow in Miami. Now, I know I told everybody to aggressively play Myles Gaskin this past week, and it didn't necessarily work out for you to the extent I thought it would. I thought that we were going to be seeing 20 points easily for Myles Gaskin, but based on the fact that he got 21 carries, based on the fact that he got targeted multiple times out of the backfield and almost 150 total yards, I think that we can stand by the fact that if Myles Gaskin has some touchdown volatility go in his direction over the next few weeks, he could easily be a running back 1 and plus matchups. Exactly what we were seeing from Myles Gaskin is exactly what we got. All right. So now our next lesson learned is Darren Waller is a man. I mean, not a ton that we are going to be changing our strategy around because of this, but 13 receptions, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, 17 targets. I mean, fantastic performance from Darren Waller. We knew that this was in the range of outcomes for Waller if you just looked at what he's been able to accrue in terms of his target share in the Las Vegas Raiders offense so far in 2020 as well as in 2019. So here, Darren Waller, just a fantastic performance. Not changing a lot because he was a must-start tight end for you every week, though. And now, a player that was a roller coaster in our projections the entire week leading up until Sunday, Corey Davis. Y'all know at the very beginning of the week, I was telling y'all to bench Corey Davis, but then once we got news that Jonnu Smith was going to miss, I was telling y'all to fire Corey Davis in your starting lineups, and that was because he was going to see more volume, which looked like it was going to be the case no matter what, but I'm glad that we told so many people to start him on both Saturday and Sunday. And here, Corey Davis, 11 receptions, 12 targets, 184 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, Corey Davis, a wide receiver that we loved coming out of Western Michigan in the 2017 NFL draft class. Someone that struggled earlier on in his NFL career due to injuries, and at the same time, we know that he had some of the worst quarterback play in the entire NFL with Marcus Mariota, but it really looks like he is coming on strong, just like we saw Devontae Parker have that a very late breakout in his own NFL career a year ago. All right, so now our last lesson learned is it looks like Devontae Booker is going to make us look like an idiot. I mean, I thought that the Las Vegas Raiders were going to comfortably lead this game the entire time. We were going to see them get more usage to their running backs. And while, yes, Devontae Booker handled almost every single touch out of this backfield, with Jalen Richard seeing very few, really the workload was not there due to the game script. And whenever he did get the work, he was not able to provide any type of efficiency with it, only seeing a total of 51 yards and 1 reception. Extremely disappointing matchup. An extremely disappointing performance by Devontae Booker, where I thought he was going to be a complete smash. All right. Now, thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I really hope y'all got something from it. As always, if y'all did, go down there, drop that like, leave that comment, subscribe to the channel. It really, really helps us out. And yeah, I'll be live streaming every single night this week. I hope to see y'all there.